My name is Swami Arjuna, and what I am about to say may unmake the world you know. I died, and in the stillness between two heartbeats, I met him, not in a vision, not in a metaphor, but in the roaring silence where time itself bowed. I crossed over, and on the other side Jesus stood waiting. His presence was not a story, it was a flood. It broke me, it healed me, it changed everything. He didn't ask questions, he didn't accuse, he only looked at me. And I remembered who I was before the forgetting, before the noise, before the numbness. He showed me 5 events, they are coming, each one like a bell tolling through the corridors of time. They will begin in July 2025, and once they begin, nothing will remain the same. Not for you, not for your city, not for this world. I've carried this burden in silence for too long, but silence has become disobedience. And I made a vow, if I lived, I would speak. So I speak now, trembling. This is not a message. It is a flame. This is not a warning. It is a cry from eternity breaking through the veil. And you were meant to hear it. Because you have felt it, haven't you? That strange ache beneath the surface, that sense that something is unraveling, that time is shifting, that heaven is no longer quiet. It's true, the heavens are no longer quiet. The 5 events, they are not natural, they are not political, they are spiritual, and they are closer than you think. The first will tear the sky, the second will silence the noise, the third will divide, the fourth will expose, the fifth will bring the fire, not the fire of wrath, but the fire of unveiling. And if you are not ready, you will mistake revelation for ruin. He called my name in the dark, and I must now call yours. He called my name in the dark, and I must now call yours. He called my name in the dark, and I must now call yours. The time is now. Choose. Let the sleepers wake. Let the seekers listen. Let the doubters weep. Let the brave remember. The time is now. Choose. I was tired, not just in my bones, but in the forgotten corners of my soul. Every morning was a copy of the last, the taste of coffee gone cold before I could finish it, the blur of headlights and red brake lights stretching endlessly ahead of me, the same tired songs playing on the same tired radio station, and inside a silence. I existed. I moved. I answered emails. I smiled when I had to. But something in me had fallen asleep long ago, and I didn't know how to wake it. My faith, if I could even call it that, was no longer a flame but a memory of heat. I still whispered prayers before sleep, but they were hollow, like old echoes in a cathedral no one visits anymore. God felt far, too far. And maybe I preferred it that way, because when he is close, everything starts to shake. I filled my time with noise, podcasts, deadlines, notifications. I was always listening, but never hearing. There were moments, though, quiet cracks in the routine, moments that didn't make sense. The elevator that stalled for 13 silent seconds, the street lamp that flickered when I walked beneath it, the stranger's eyes on the subway that lingered a beat too long, not in threat but in sorrow. That morning, the morning it happened, the sky felt heavier, not darker, not stormy, just heavier, like the heavens were holding their breath. The wind had a strange hum in it, not sound but presence, the kind of stillness that lives in cathedrals and forests right before something sacred breaks open. I remember standing at the sink, watching the faucet drip, 1, 2, 3 drops, and thinking, something is about to change. It wasn't a voice, it wasn't a vision, but it was real. My soul knew before my mind could name it. Like some ancient part of me remembered a promise made long ago in the quiet between lifetimes. The sky, the wind, the hum of my own breath, all whispered the same truth. You are out of time. And yet, I left the house like always. I locked the door, checked it twice, and stepped out into a world that would never be the same. You see, when God decides to wake you, now, he does not knock, he breaks what numbs you, he breaks what blinds you, he breaks what comforts you into forgetting him. That was the day he shattered the silence. That was the day he called my name in the dark. and I would never again be the same. I didn't know then that my name was already echoing through the veil, that heaven had already opened its hands, and that death, sweet, strange death, was only hours away. I didn't know that in a moment of stillness, in the turning of a wheel, my soul would be ripped from its body and carried into light. But the day had already been chosen. The scroll had already been unrolled, and the one who walks among flames was waiting. He called my name in the dark, and he waited, patient as eternity, burning as mercy, still as thunder before it speaks. Return to the fire, return to the fire, return to the fire. I didn't know it yet, but everything familiar would soon fall away, and I would see the world as it truly is. Not through the eyes of flesh, but through the eyes of the Spirit, and nothing would ever look the same again. One turn, one breath, then nothing, a blinding flash, and silence, not the silence of peace, but the silence of being unmade. It happened so fast, and yet somehow I felt every millisecond stretch into eternity. There was no scream, no final thought, only the sensation of being torn away from everything familiar, like a page ripped from the spine of a holy book. I didn't feel pain. I felt release. One moment, I was at the wheel. The next, I wasn't. My body slumped, but I floated, above, watching, weightless. The windshield was shattered like stained glass. The horn had gone silent. My limbs were motionless, curled awkwardly beneath twisted metal. But I was free. Not in the way we romanticize death, not some floating angel wrapped in light, but free in a way that terrifies you with its clarity. I was looking at myself, and I felt nothing. No fear, no regret. Only stillness. A stillness so vast it made the oceans seem loud. I hovered there between breath and eternity, between heartbeat and heaven. Time lost all meaning. Every second throbbed with knowing. And then I felt it. A pulling, not down, not up, but inward, into something deeper than sky, deeper than space, deeper than the marrow of creation itself. And then I let go. I surrendered, not out of despair, but out of awe, because I knew, I don't know how I knew, but I knew I was being carried, not falling, not drifting, carried, like a child asleep in the arms of someone who knows the way home. There was a presence, a gravity not of this world. It didn't speak in words, but in essence. And I heard, not with my ears, but with the soul that remembered what it had forgotten. You were brought here for a reason. Those words weren't words. They were etched into me. They echoed in the hollow spaces where doubt once lived. You were brought here for a reason. I began to feel light pressing against me, not blinding but alive. It moved like breath. It shimmered like memory. It wrapped around me like something older than time. I passed through darkness, not cold, not evil, but vast. A velvet shadow. The kind of dark that isn't absence but preparation. The womb of what is to come. And then, light. But not like any light I've seen on earth. This light did not illuminate. It revealed. It didn't show surfaces. It showed truths. Truths about me. Truths about the world. Truths about God. It stripped away every lie I had ever believed, gently but with no compromise. I began to weep, not with eyes, but with soul, because in that moment I saw myself, and I saw the one who had made me, and I knew. He called my name in the dark. He had never stopped calling, even when I ran, even when I forgot, even when I silenced the hunger inside me with noise and numbness. He called, and now I had answered. The veil had lifted, and there, in the place beyond breath, I remembered. All of it. The vow, the choosing, the promise that if I returned, I would speak. And I speak now, not for fame, not for comfort, but for obedience, because I saw what's coming. And I must tell you, you were brought here for a reason. You are not random. You are not forgotten. You are not exempt from the fire. You are not immune to the mercy. The moment of death was not the end of me. It was the beginning, the peeling away of what never mattered to reveal the only thing that ever did. I was known, and I was summoned, not to be praised, but to be transformed, not to be spared, but to be sent. He called my name in the dark. And in that sacred dark, I said yes. Yes to the breaking. Yes to the burning. Yes to the burden. Because some truths are not given for comfort, they are given for awakening. And the moment I let go as was the moment I was truly held. So I tell you this, with all the reverence I have, when the veil begins to thin, do not resist it. When the silence grows heavy, listen. When your name echoes in the quiet, answer. Because when he calls, he does not call the proud. He calls the willing. He calls the broken. He calls the ordinary. He calls the ones who have nothing left to lose but their sleep. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. The moment of death is not the end. It is the place where truth begins to speak without stuttering, and that truth is waiting for you. Light, but not the light of sun or moon, not photons, not fire, not flame. This light sang. It breathed. It was alive. It did not blind me. It bathed me. It was not around me. It was in me, moving through the hollow spaces, filling every crack where sorrow had once slept. It was warmth, yes, but more than warmth. It was knowing. It was presence. It was the breath of God before it ever became wind. I had crossed. No doorway, no gate, no angel with sword, just an unfolding, like a curtain being drawn back from the edge of eternity. And on the other side, stillness. Sacred, sacred stillness. The kind of stillness the prophets wept about. The kind of stillness that lives in burning bushes and holy ground. The kind of stillness that knows your name without ever needing to say it. The air shimmered like memory. It moved like liquid glass, like time itself had exhaled and settled into silence. There were others there. Some I recognized, not with my eyes, but with that eternal part of me that never forgot them. My grandmother, but not as I had last seen her, frail and dying. She was radiant, whole. Her face, joy and gentleness, married into light. Others, I didn't know, yet I knew them. Not from earth, but from before. Some were ancient, older than any year I could count, but they carried no weight, only peace. Like libraries that breathed, their very presence holding truths too vast for language. I was not a stranger there, I was not a visitor. I was home. This is home, not the house you grow up in, not the land of your passport, but the place where your soul remembers it was made. There, names dissolve into love. There, time bends like light through stained glass. There, no one rushes. There is no urgency, only eternity. I felt my form, whatever it was, stretch and melt. I was not flesh, I was not mind, I was essence. And that essence was known fully, without fear, without shame. Every sin I had ever committed did not vanish. It was seen, held, but not with condemnation, with clarity, like hands holding ashes, not to shame them, but to breathe over them, until even dust became life again. There was no pain. There was no striving, only surrender. And the deeper I went into that light, the more I became myself. Not the version the world shaped, but the one God had whispered into dust at the beginning. That place, I can barely call it heaven, not because it lacked wonder, but because even the word heaven feels too small for what I saw. There were no golden streets, no harps, no clouds, just presence, his presence, woven into everything. The trees, if they were trees, sang, not with words, but with a vibration of worship that pulsed like music through the air. The light moved with intention, like it was drawn toward love. Everything there. Everything was stitched together with a thread I can only call worship. But it wasn't forced, it was natural, like breathing, like becoming. He called my name in the dark, and in this place I knew why, because here was the origin, the pattern, the song from which every soul had been composed, and I felt him, not distant, not above, not looking down, but all around, inside me, through me. There were no questions in that place, only understanding, the kind that doesn't need to be spoken to be known, the kind that heals before you even ask. And in that great stillness I heard it again, not with ears but with that eternal knowing. You were brought here for a reason, not by accident, not because I died, but because it was time. Time for the unveiling, time for the showing, time for the telling. What he showed me there, what I saw in that holy place, was not a dream. It was a charge, and it burned. It burned still. But I lingered in that light for what felt like 1,000 lifetimes, and no time at all. No hunger, no thirst, no regret. Only the pull of truth and the rising ache that I could not stay. I did not want to leave, but obedience was stronger than desire. I was shown what must come. I was entrusted with it. And once it was given, I could not remain. The light whispered, "Return to the fire. Return to the fire. Return to the fire." The veil began to close, not cruelly but with holy precision, and as I turned, as the shimmer of eternity faded into the thin edge of breath, I made my vow. If you let me return, I will not waste it. If you breathe me back into dust, I will carry the fire. If you call my name in the dark, I will answer. Because this is not a dream. This is a summons, and I say yes. He called my name in the dark, and now I carry the light I saw there, even in this world, even in this skin, even now, because someone needs to know what waits beyond the veil is more real than anything you can touch, and once you've tasted it, you can never live asleep again. This is home, and I was sent back to lead others there, but not through death, through fire. He didn't walk. He was. He didn't arrive. He simply became. There was no movement, no footsteps, no sound, no approach, and yet suddenly he filled everything. Light, mercy, fire, not separate, but one being, one presence, one flame. I could not measure him. I could not contain him with thought. To describe him as Jesus feels too small, too soft, yet he was him, the Christ, the Anointed One, the Word that was before words. And in that moment, I forgot every name I had ever called him, because there none were needed. He was not explained. He was experienced. I did not see his face with eyes, but with essence, and it broke me, not into pain, but into truth. His gaze, if you can call it that, was not just upon me. It entered me, and in one eternal second, I saw every moment of my life, from the first breath to the last regret, from my deepest betrayals to my smallest mercies. Every thought I thought was hidden, every time I said I'm fine but was breaking inside, every lie I whispered, every time I ignored his voice, and he saw it all, not to punish, but to know. I was not judged. I was known. And somehow, he loved me anyway. Not in spite of it all, but through it all. His love did not excuse, it revealed. It didn't bypass sin. It exposed it, then burned it clean. He was not sentimental. He was holy, terrifyingly holy, and yet I felt safe. So safe. I fell to my knees, though I had no knees. I wept, though I had no tears. Because in him, everything that was false melted, and what remained was what he had always seen. I tried to speak, but speech was swallowed in glory. Then he spoke, not with sound, but with reality. His words shaped the very air around me, and this is what I heard. You must go back. I wanted to scream no. I wanted to stay, to disappear into him forever, to never remember the world of pain again. But his voice, gentle and relentless, continued. They must know. And I felt it, the burden, the mantle, the weight of sacred duty fall upon my shoulders like oil that burned. 5 things will come. His voice did not shake, but everything in me did. You must prepare them. Prepare them? For what? But the question died before it could form, because with those words, he showed me, not with pictures, but with knowing. Each of the 5, not events, but unveilings, each one a holy disruption, a mercy wrapped in fire, a storm born of love. And though I will share what he showed me, not yet, not here, because before the revelation, you must understand the cost of seeing, the cost of returning. He placed something inside me in that moment, not a gift, a calling, and it burns still, even now. Even as I speak to you, he leaned closer, though he was already in me, and whispered into the place beneath words, "Keep speaking." That was his command, his vow etched into mine. Keep speaking. Even when they mock you, even when they leave you, even when your voice trembles and the nights are long. Keep speaking. Because truth is not a weapon, it is a flame, and the world must be set on fire before it can be healed. I didn't understand the fullness of it then, but I understood enough. I knew the earth would shake, I knew the veil would thin, I knew the idols would fall, and the ones who still had ears to hear would rise. He called my name in the dark, and I answered. But now, he is calling yours, not just to listen, but to carry. Because what he revealed to me was never meant to stay with me. It was meant for you, for now, for what's coming. And as his presence began to withdraw, though it never truly left, the atmosphere trembled, not with sadness, but with urgency. You must go back. I did not walk away. I was sent. I did not lose heaven. I was given earth again as a mission field drenched in mercy. And before he faded into the holy stillness, he said it once more, softly, fiercely, forever. Keep speaking. So I am, with every breath I've been given, with every moment I've been borrowed. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. You were brought here for a reason. This story is not entertainment, it is an invitation to awaken, to remember, to choose. And now the question presses close, not upon me, but upon you. Will you listen? Will you rise? Or will you sleep through the sound of your name being called in the dark? Because he is calling, still, now, always, and those who hear it can never be the same. He called my name in the dark, and I listened. Because once you have stood before him, once you have heard eternity speak your name, you cannot pretend the world is the same. You cannot return to silence when heaven has placed a trumpet in your mouth. You cannot keep secrets when the sky itself is preparing to break open. And so now I speak, not for applause, not for comfort, but because I was commanded. I was shown 5 events, not rumors, not dreams, but revelations, etched into my soul like thunder carved into stone. They are coming, and they begin in July. Let the listener understand, these are not punishments, they are mercies, holy disruptions, not sent to destroy, but to awaken. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. The first, a great shaking. In July, the earth will tremble, both literally and spiritually. Beneath our feet, things long buried will rise. Fault lines, geological and moral, will crack. The crust of our comfort will split. Cities will feel it. Souls will feel it more. This is not chaos. This is calibration. A divine hand, realigning what man has misaligned. You will see buildings fall. But more than that, you will see kingdoms fall. The false ones, built on greed, on lies, on vanity. And in their place, the beginnings of a different kind of foundation will emerge. The shaking is mercy, even when it looks like ruin. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. The second, a rise of false light. I saw him. A leader, charismatic, articulate, promising peace, promising unity, smiling like salvation itself. But beneath his tongue, poison, a counterfeit Messiah. He will not come with rage, he will come with charm. He will speak the language of justice. He will mimic compassion. He will even quote scripture, but twist it into chains. Many will follow, not because they are evil, but because they are weary, because they long for hope, and they will mistake the glitter for the gold. But those who have oil in their lamps will see, they will know, because the light he carries does not warm, it burns. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. The third, the veil will thin. The unseen will become visible. Children will dream dreams, not fairy tales, but prophecies. They will speak names they've never heard, describe things they've never seen. Old men, once dulled by cynicism, will begin to prophesy again, their bones remembering what it meant to burn. I saw houses where the air shimmered, not from heat, but from presence. I saw churches stripped of glamour, but full of glory. And I saw demons once hidden in systems and shadows start to manifest, not to attack, but because the light would no longer allow them to hide. What was once whispered in the dark will be shouted in the daylight. The veil will tear like the temple curtain, and those with eyes to see will know that the war was never political. It was always spiritual. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. The fourth, the dividing line will glow. No more middle ground, no more fence-sitting, no more lukewarm hearts singing songs they do not live. You will be asked to choose, not just with words, but with your life, light or darkness. There will be no third way, not because God is cruel, but because clarity is coming. The line will not be drawn by governments, it will be drawn by heaven, and every soul will feel it. I saw people walking into light, not because they were perfect, but because they said yes. And I saw others running into shadow, not out of hatred, but out of fear. This is the hour where every mask will melt. Who you are in secret will be revealed in daylight, and the cost of truth will rise, but so will its power. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. The fifth, a global silence before the storm. I saw it, the whole earth holding its breath. No planes in the sky, no traffic in the streets, no noise, only stillness. It was eerie, holy, terrifying, like the moment before a symphony begins, or the stillness between the lightning and the thunder. Heaven will go quiet, as if waiting, watching, weighing. During this silence, the Spirit will move quietly, visiting homes, touching hearts, whispering names in the dark. This will be your moment, to surrender, to turn, to remember, because once the silence breaks, everything will change. Not all at once, but irreversibly. Economies will bend, power structures will twist, nature itself will groan louder. But for those who listen now, for those who yield now, it will not be destruction, it will be deliverance. The world must be shaken before it can be restored. And I carry this not as a prophet, but as a witness, a soul that was shown and told to speak. Not because I am worthy, but because I said yes. So hear me, not with your ears, but with your spirit. The earth is being prepared, and so are you. Do not wait for the shaking to remember the voice that's been calling you for years. He called my name in the dark. He is calling yours now. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. Choose now, not when the storm comes, not when the silence falls, not when the false light rises. Choose now. Because the shaking is not a threat, it is an invitation to awaken, to arise, to return. The time is not tomorrow, the time is now. I saw it, not just in pictures but in the marrow of my soul, a world cracking open, and from its broken shell, life. Not just life as we know it, but life as it was meant to be. He called my name in the dark, and now he was calling theirs. I saw millions asleep one moment, wide-eyed the next. Their eyes didn't just open, they awakened, not to fear, not to fame, but to truth. Chains that had clung to ankles for generations snapped. Invisible cords tied to systems, to shame, to silence, cut. The lies they were born into, shattered. And for the first time, the forgotten remembered who they were. Not consumers, not victims, not statistics, but sons, but daughters, but fire bearers. They were chosen. I wept, not from sorrow, but from recognition, because I had been told the harvest would be few, but what I saw was a flood, a rising, not of the proud, not of the powerful, but of the hidden, the hurting, the ones long dismissed. A remnant rising like smoke from ancient altars, carrying prayers their ancestors prayed, but never lived to see fulfilled. They came barefoot, broken, without titles, without stage lights. But heaven stood for them, because the crowns they wore were not made of gold, but of obedience, and on their foreheads not names of men, but the seal of the Lamb. They were chosen. I saw wilderness preachers emerging from cubicles. I saw prophets disguised as school teachers, intercessors hidden behind storefronts. I saw single mothers carrying nations in their womb of prayer. I saw elderly grandfathers speaking in tongues they'd never learned. This was not revival. This was resurrection. A holy uprising not born in tents or televised events, but in kitchens, in bedrooms, in secret closets, soaked with weeping. The awakening was not loud, it was deep. And then I saw the earth itself respond. Mountains, those ancient stoic witnesses, began to sing. Not metaphorically, not poetically. They sang, and the sound was worship. Rivers danced, not just through land, but through the soul of creation. Waters that had once run sluggish with pollution now pulsed with clarity, as if remembering Eden. Trees clapped their hands, fields shimmered like praise. The planet itself began to breathe again, and in that breath, heaven whispered, "This is what I meant." This, not war, not famine, not despair, but this. A world where justice and mercy kiss, where light does not compete with darkness, it consumes it, where no child is forgotten, no soul is dismissed, no cry is unheard. The new earth wasn't a place, it was a condition, a covenant being fulfilled. And those who rose to walk in it weren't saints by effort, but by surrender. They were chosen. Chosen not because they were better, but because they responded. Because when they heard the whisper in the dark, they didn't turn away. They leaned in, and what began as a remnant became a wave, and what began as a whisper became a roar. And in the roar, I heard the same voice that had once spoken to me in silence. The time is now. Choose. And as that wave of awakened ones swept across nations, something else began. A fire. But not the fire of destruction. The fire of return. Return to first love. Return to truth. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. Return to the fire. They were not perfect, but they were yielded, and the world didn't know what to do with them. Governments couldn't control them, institutions couldn't contain them, culture couldn't silence them, because their allegiance was not to systems, but to kingdom. They didn't protest. They prayed. They didn't fight with fists. They fought on their knees. They weren't trying to be famous. They were trying to be faithful, and heaven moved through them like a current through copper. I saw homes become tabernacles. I saw hospitals emptied by sudden healings. I saw prisons filled with worship instead of weeping, because the kingdom had come near, not through catastrophe, but through consecration. They were chosen. And now, you must ask yourself, are you? Not by merit, not by lineage, but by response. Will you rise when he calls your name? Will you yield when he whispers your purpose? Will you burn when the world goes cold? Because the awakening has begun, and the fire is spreading, and there are no spectators in this hour, Only those who answer and those who look away. So I ask you again, not as a preacher, but as a witness, one who saw what is coming. Will you return to the fire? Will you return to the fire? Because this awakening is not coming. It's here. I returned, not with fanfare, not with choirs, but with the heavy ache of one who has held heaven in her hands and been dropped back into dust. I gasped, lungs struggling, as if Earth's air was too dense for what I had become. Machines beeped, cold light pressed against my eyelids, voices echoed down sterile halls, but none of it felt real. My body ached, every bone like a bell still ringing from what it had touched. But deeper still, my soul burned, not with fever, but with fire. He called my name in the dark, and now that same fire surged in me. A holy ache, a burden I hadn't asked for, but had vowed to carry. I tried to speak, at first gently. A nurse at my bedside, a chaplain with a clipboard. I told them, I died, I saw him, he showed me what's coming. They smiled, politely, like I'd confused a dream with a fever, like trauma had turned into theology. One said I'd been hallucinating, another said it was oxygen deprivation. One touched my hand with kindness, but not belief. They nodded, but their hearts were locked. Even pastors, the ones I once sat beneath, the ones I had admired. They turned their faces. Some said, "Be careful what you say." Others said, "God doesn't speak like that anymore." I begged them, not with arrogance but with trembling. I told them, "Please, it's not about me. It's about him. It's about us. It's about what's coming." Still they walked away, some gently, others mockingly, and some with fear in their eyes, because nothing threatens systems like a voice from outside their control, and nothing terrifies comfort like a fire that cannot be contained. They don't want this truth to spread. The resistance came softly at first. Lights flickered in my room whenever I whispered his name aloud. Not once, not twice, but always. As if something unseen grew restless when I remembered. I heard whispers, not the kind that speak to ears, but the kind that press against your soul. You didn't see anything. You're making it up. Stay quiet, or you'll lose everything. Shadows danced at the edges of my sleep. Devices malfunctioned, messages disappeared, and still I spoke. Because obedience isn't silence. Obedience is the fire you keep alive when the world tries to drown it in noise. Return to the fire. I said it again and again, not just to others, but to myself. Because even I began to doubt. Nights grew long, friends grew distant. I lost invitations, platforms, praise. People called me unstable, a fanatic, a woman too emotional, too extreme. But what they called emotional, he called obedient. And in the depths of loneliness, in the middle of night terrors and isolation, he returned, not in vision, not in voice, but in presence, like a blanket of stillness settling over a war-torn soul. He called my name in the dark, and he whispered, "You are not alone." That voice, the same voice that filled eternity and broke me into light, came again. It didn't say, "Fight." It said, "Keep speaking." So I spoke, to anyone who would listen, to the few who dared to ask, to the ones the world called foolish. And slowly, the whispers changed, not just the enemies, but heavens. New voices came, quiet ones, faithful ones. They said, "I've seen it too." They said, "My child had a dream." They said, "We've felt the shaking. We just didn't know what it meant." And I realized, even in resistance, the remnant hears. Even when the world mocks, the chosen respond. And though the enemy roared, something louder stirred beneath. The time is now. Choose. You see, the war is not just out there. It's in here, in the heart, in the will, in the moment of choosing comfort or calling. And once you've seen the kingdom, you can't return to convenience. So I walk this road now, not with fame, not with applause, but with fire. Because I made a vow on the other side of death. If I returned, I would tell them, even if they laughed, even if they turned, even if I walked alone. Because the truth is this: they don't want this truth to spread, but heaven does, and what heaven begins, no darkness can undo. So I burn, not from anger, but from remembrance. I was called by name, in the dark, and I answered, return to the fire. Not tomorrow, not once it's safe. Now, because the resistance will come, but the remnant will rise, and when they do, nothing will ever be the same. If you're hearing this, you were chosen, not by accident, not by algorithm, not by coincidence. You were drawn here by something older than time and deeper than comprehension, a pull in your spirit, a stirring in your sleep, a question that won't leave you alone. You feel it, don't you? The weight, the shift in the atmosphere, the way days feel shorter, not in time, but in grace. He called my name in the dark, and now he's calling yours. This message is not a performance. It's not prophecy for popularity. This is my obedience, a vow I sealed with breath borrowed from beyond the veil, because what he showed me, what he whispered into the marrow of my being, was not for me to keep. So hear me. July 2025 will change everything. I don't say this to provoke panic. I say it because mercy speaks before judgment falls. There will be shaking, not just of lands and buildings, but of identities, institutions, and illusions. The false will be stripped, the hidden will be revealed, and every man, woman, and child will have to choose which kingdom they serve. This is not about religion, it's about reality. It's about your soul. It's about the war you were born into and the destiny you were born to fulfill. You can ignore it, you can mock it, you can scroll past it, laugh, dismiss, call it dramatic or delusional, but you won't escape the echo that follows you into your sleep. The time is now. Choose. Choose truth over comfort. Choose obedience over applause. Choose the narrow road that bleeds before it blesses. Because what's coming will divide, it will expose, it will purify, and those who are not anchored in him will be swept away by a storm that doesn't care how often they attended church, or how loud they sang songs, or how perfect their theology looked on paper. What matters is whether your heart is his, whether your house was built on rock or on sand. So I plead with you, not from pride, not from fear, but from a love that aches because it knows what's coming. Pray, not just for what you want, but for who you must become. Fast, not to earn points in heaven, but to silence the noise that drowns the whisper of God. Repent, not as ritual, but as return. Return to the Gospels, return to Christ, return to truth, return to the fire. Because the fire is cleansing. It does not destroy, it refines. And if you're willing to walk through it, you will emerge not as a casualty, but as a vessel. You don't have to be a preacher. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to say yes. Yes to the call, yes to the burden, yes to the breaking. Because what's coming will break the world, but it will also birth the bride. A remnant is rising, not to escape, but to prepare, to weep between the porch and the altar, to cry out for mercy, to stand in the gap when others fold. This is not theory, this is not inspiration, this is invitation, to wake up, to armor up, to clean house, to let go of what cannot survive the fire. He called my name in the dark, and I said yes. Now he's calling yours. Will you say yes? Will you let your comfort die so that your calling can live? Because this isn't about the masses anymore, it's about the few, the faithful, the ones who tremble but do not turn away. This is not fear, this is mercy, because love always warns before the shaking. And when the shaking comes, your response will reveal what your foundation truly is. The time is now. Choose. Choose him. Choose truth. Choose fire. Because the fire is not your enemy. It's your baptism. This isn't just my story, it's yours, it always was. You didn't find this message, it found you, across time, through silence, through the layers of noise and doubt and distance. Something ancient has been pulling at you, a memory buried deeper than bone, older than language, older than fear. You were brought here to remember, before the veil, before the forgetting, before the voices of the world told you who to be. And you began to forget who you are. There was a time, before time, when your soul knew the sound of heaven, when it walked with the King in the cool of eternal morning. You knew that voice then. You know it now. He called my name in the dark, and I remembered. You were called too. You were not made for shadows. You were not made for half-truths or lukewarm living. You were not made for spiritual sleep. You were made for fire. You were made to walk where angels tremble. You were made to carry light into the places that have forgotten it. You were made to burn, not with destruction, but with holy remembrance, and the hour is late. When the winds rise, where will your soul be standing? When the sky fractures and comfort flees, when silence falls heavy upon the earth, who will you be? This is not about performance, it's not about perfection, it's about posture. Will you kneel? Will you repent? Will you rise? Will you say yes, even if your voice trembles? Because heaven does not need the proud or the polished or the praised. Heaven needs the willing. The ones who walk with limp and fire, scarred but surrendered, quiet but unshakable. You. Return to the fire. Let it consume what no longer belongs. Let it refine what still remains. Let it remind you who you are, and who you've always been. A voice in the wilderness, a lantern in the dark, a witness of glory, a keeper of the vow. Do not wait for the crowd. Do not wait for proof. Do not wait for applause. Wait for nothing. The invitation is already in your hands, to pray, to fast, to return to the Gospels, to return to Christ. He is not a distant myth. He is the breath behind the stars, the silence in your chaos, the name that thunders softly beneath every heartbeat. He is calling again. Can you hear it? The time is now. The time is now. No more delay, no more distraction, no more fear. Return to Him, return to truth, return before the hour strikes. And if you remember nothing else, if the lights fade and the noise returns and the world distracts you back to sleep, let this remain like ash in your mouth and a fire in your chest. He called your name in the dark, and you must choose. The time is now. The time is now. If this message stirred something in you, not just in your mind but deep in the marrow of your soul, then I need you to listen to me one last time. This isn't the end. This is only the beginning. Because when He called my name in the dark, I made a vow that if I came back I would not remain silent. And now here you are, not by chance but by divine arrangement. So I ask you, not as a preacher, not as a prophet, but as a voice that has walked through fire. Return to the fire. Return to the stillness. Return to Him. There is a remnant rising, and if this testimony awakened even a flicker of remembrance in your soul, you are part of it. So come with us. Lay down the noise. Lay down the weight. Lay down everything that numbs you and blinds you. Pick up the truth. Pick up the word. Pick up your cross. Christ is calling. He doesn't need the loud. He doesn't need the many. He's calling the willing. And if your spirit whispered yes, if your chest ached with a hunger you can't name, you already know. You were brought here to remember. So don't walk away unchanged. Don't let the veil fall again. If this moved you, subscribe to the Serene Bible. Not for me, but for the journey your soul is now on. This place is a sanctuary for the called, for the burdened, for the awakened. And share this, not as content, but as commission, as a lifeline, as a sacred invitation to someone else who is still asleep in the dark. And above all, return to the Gospels. Open the pages until the words bleed light into your eyes, until His voice silences every other, until His love undoes what the world has done. You were made for more than survival. You were made for fire. You were made for this moment. So let the others scroll. Let the world mock. Let comfort die. Christ is calling. Will you rise? Will you run? The time is now. Choose. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. He called your name in the dark. And now you must answer. Welcome to the Serene Bible. Welcome home.